Hi, everyone, and welcome to the LAC Housing Choice Voucher or HCV Program Enhancement Training. This training is designed for team members working at applicable LAC tax credit communities with Housing Choice Voucher residents. During this course, we'll review the renewal timing expectations, payment standards, documentation requirements, escalation procedures, and the basics of the HCV incentive program. We'll also review the resources available to support the process and discuss how proper documentation and timely submissions can impact incentive eligibility. As you move through this training, remember the four key messages: know the process, follow the steps, document early, and escalate when needed. Let's get started. By the end of this training, you should understand who this program applies to, when renewal planning should begin, how to determine the correct payment standard, what documentation is required, and the basics of the HCV incentive program. These concepts work together to help ensure HCV renewals are completed accurately, on time, and in accordance with the program expectations. Let's begin with some background on this initiative. LAC developed this program to help communities maximize housing choice voucher rent opportunities through proactive planning, accurate documentation, and consistent follow through. To support site teams, LAC has provided additional resources, including an incentive program, a frequently asked questions guide, a field guide, and workbook training materials. It's important to remember that this initiative does not replace any existing compensation programs or bonus structures. Additionally, a resident's rent portion generally remains unchanged unless there is a change in household income or household composition. This program applies specifically to Housing Choice Voucher residents and does not apply to residents who pay 100% of their rent without subsidy assistance. Before taking action, it's important to understand when this process applies and when it does not. This initiative applies to Housing Choice Voucher residents at applicable tax credit properties and is primarily focused on lease renewals involving voucher holders. It does not apply to self pay residents who are not receiving rental assistance. It also does not apply to 100% HUD Section 8 communities or other excluded properties unless voucher holders are present in market rate units. If you're ever unsure whether this program applies to your property, reach out to leadership for clarification before proceeding. This process can be broken into 6 simple steps. First, begin tracking renewal activity early. Second, verify the current payment standard. Third, request the appropriate rent amount. Fourth, complete all required forms and tracker updates. Fifth, submit everything before the new rent effective date. And finally, if an approval comes back lower than requested, escalate according to current guidance before accepting the lower amount. The earlier these steps begin, the easier it is to avoid delays and missed opportunities. One of the most important lessons in this training is to start early. Renewal activity should generally begin 60 to 90 days before the lease renewal date. Waiting too long can create unnecessary challenges and reduce the amount of time available to resolve any issues. If paperwork has not been received or completed within the expected timeframes, follow the guidance provided in the training materials and contact the appropriate housing authority as needed. The goal is to build a habit of reviewing upcoming renewals regularly rather than waiting until the deadline is approaching. Payment standards are established by the local housing authority and are generally updated each year. For every applicable renewal or new move in, teams should verify the current payment standard based on the unit's bedroom count. If payment standards are not available online, contact the housing authority directly to obtain the current information. It's also helpful to remember that requesting a higher approved rent amount does not automatically increase the resident's portion of rent. In most cases, the increase affects the subsidy portion of the voucher unless there's been a change in income or household status. Documentation plays a critical role in this process. For each applicable transaction, update the payment standard tracker, complete the required HCV submission form, and submit supporting documentation through Smartsheet. All documentation should be submitted before the effective date of the new rent amount. Timely documentation not only supports compliance expectations, but it also impacts eligibility for incentive consideration. Remember, if an action is not properly documented, it can be difficult to verify later. This slide provides an overview of the HCV incentive structure. The incentive amount is based on the relationship between the approved HCV rent and the applicable rent benchmarks established in the program guidelines. Additional incentive opportunities may be available when approvals reach the payment standard or when approved remapping activities occur. Keep in mind that all incentives are subject to documentation requirements, review, and final approval by LAC. A successful rent increase request is only part of the process. Program eligibility also depends on meeting submission requirements, maintaining occupancy conditions, and providing all requested documentation. Submission cutoff dates occur twice each year, and all required materials must be submitted before the new rent effective date. Missing deadlines may affect eligibility even if the rent increase itself was approved. Not every situation will follow the standard process. If the Housing Authority approves a lower amount than requested, follow current guidance and escalate the situation before accepting the reduced amount. Additionally, if leasing or market information is requested, only provide that information when specifically authorized. When something falls outside of the normal process, the safest approach is to stop and seek guidance before moving forward. This process is a team effort. Supervisors should review the process with all applicable employees and ensure responsibilities have been clearly assigned. Monthly renewal reviews should become part of normal operational routines. It's also important to recognize the role that maintenance teams play in supporting successful inspections and renewals. While responsibilities may differ, everyone contributes to the overall success of the process. Several common mistakes can create delays, compliance concerns, or missed incentive opportunities. These include waiting too long to begin the process, using outdated payment standards, submitting documentation late, providing information without approval, accepting lower approvals without escalation, and failing to complete required acknowledgments. Most of these issues can be avoided through regular planning, accurate documentation, and timely communication. After completing this portion of the course, please take a few minutes to review the supplemental resources and take the attached knowledge assessment. This next video was created by LAC and provides additional guidance on workbook expectations, tracking responsibilities, and documentation requirements. As you watch, pay special attention to how the workbook supports the overall process that we've discussed throughout this training. Once the video is complete, return to the course to finish the remaining sessions. As we begin wrapping up this course, let's revisit the key message behind this initiative. Success comes from consistency, so start early, follow the process, complete the documentation, and escalate concerns before making decisions that fall outside normal expectations. Most importantly, remember these 4 takeaways. Know the process, follow the steps, document early, escalate when needed.